Most women know they want change. They want the wealth, they want the freedom, they want the life. What they have absolutely no concept of is what the becoming actually feels like. When you are in a genuine growth phase, financially, mentally, spiritually, something starts to happen in the world around you. So at the beginning of this year, I decided to quit drinking alcohol. And it wasn't because I had a problem. It was because I understood that the version of myself I was building towards required me to have a completely clear mind. Money amplifies. That's all it does. It takes who you already are and it makes that version of you bigger, louder, more undeniable. After 12 years of working with brain biology, I know with absolute certainty that your language is not just expression. It's welcome to Rich and Regulated, where women learn to build wealth in alignment and flow. I'm Jessica Soul. For over a decade, I've helped women create the lives of their dreams, and here I'll share how I build wealth, fast-track results, and reveal money truths that will blow your mind. Let's get wealthy. So I want to talk about something today that I genuinely think is one of the most important and also least prepared for parts of the entire wealth building journey. And it's actually got nothing to do with crypto. It's got nothing to do with portfolios or passive income strategies or which wallet you should be using. It's actually about the identity of the woman who's building the wealth. So it's about what happens to you as a human being when you commit to a genuine financial and personal transformation. Because most women know they want change. They want the wealth, they want the freedom, they want the life, right? What they have absolutely no concept of is what the becoming actually feels like and what it does to the relationships around them, what it demands of them behind closed doors, and what it can cost before it actually ends up paying you. And that gap there between wanting the result and then being prepared for what getting there actually requires of you is where I watch people fall apart, pull back, or self-sabotage right at the edge of the thing they've been working toward. And it's not because they're not capable, it's because they weren't prepared for what change actually does to your entire life, even when that change is positive. So today, that's the conversation. What nobody tells you about who you become when you start building real wealth. And so let's start with something that took me a long time to understand and even longer to make peace with. When you are in a genuine growth phase, financially, mentally, spiritually, something starts to happen in the world around you. And it's subtle at first, right? You walk into conversations that used to feel fine and something in you just goes quiet. You feel flat, like the frequency doesn't match anymore. And it's not because the people are bad. It's not because anything dramatic has happened. It's just because you have started operating from a different internal state. And the gap between where you are and where they are starts to become really visible. And babe, if you're growing, you know exactly what I mean. This is the identity shift. And it's one of the most disorientating experiences that I feel a woman can go through because there's no clean language for it. There's no ceremony. No one hands you a certificate at the end and says, congratulations, you are now a different person. Navigate accordingly. It just happens really quietly and in the middle of your ordinary life. And what makes it even more complex is that the people around you don't actually sign up to grow alongside of you, right? So they signed up for the version of you that existed when the relationship between you and them was formed. And when you change, when you genuinely change, not surface level changes, babe, but the kind of change that rewires how you think and what you value and how you move through the world, some of those people actually won't even know what to do with the new version of you. A few will celebrate it, but most will go quiet. Some will create distance without ever being able to even articulate why they just actually don't know what to do and how to be around you anymore. So at the beginning of this year, I decided to quit drinking alcohol. And it wasn't because I had a problem. It was because I understood that the version of myself I was building towards required me to have a completely clear mind, full stop. And the carry-on effect of that one decision has been extraordinary in ways that I didn't fully anticipate at the time. But what I also didn't fully anticipate was this: when you stop drinking, some social dynamics can shift. Invitations change or completely disappear. Conversations change dramatically. And you start to see very clearly which connections in life were built on shared growth and which ones were just built on shared avoidance. I made more money this year, and some friends just completely stopped ringing. I became a wealth and crypto coach a few years ago, and people just started to disappear. They watch my stories every day, they know who I am, and they actually say nothing. And I want to be really clear that this story is not about blame or shame or pointing fingers at specific people and saying that they failed me. It's not about that at all. Why I'm sharing this is because it's about understanding a deeply human psychological dynamic that occurs when you evolve. And most people, whether they're aware of it or not, they have a comfort zone around the people in their lives. And part of that comfort zone is about keeping things familiar, keeping the dynamic stable. And if you're in a growth period and you disrupt that stability by growing in ways that highlight the gap between where you are and where they are, it creates friction. And it's not always conscious friction. Often it's completely unconscious, but it's extremely real. And many people actually prefer you playing small, right? Your family members. Not because they don't love you, but because often your smallness makes them feel safe. Then your clarity, your speed, your discernment, your refusal to keep pretending, it holds up a mirror. And at the end of the day, mirrors can be pretty confronting when you're not ready to look at them. And then there's the trauma bonding piece. And I've spoken about this in the past a lot. And this one I feel really strongly about because it's so persuasive and so insidious and so rarely named for what it actually is. But trauma bonding is when connection is built on shared pain, shared complaint, shared victimhood. When the glue holding relationships together is bitching about what isn't working, gossiping about other people's failings, the collective agreement that life is hard and things are unfair and there's not much anyone can do about it. And that kind of bonding actually feels intimate to people. It feels like closeness, but I can tell you, babe, it is not. It's actually just two people reinforcing each other's limitations, and then they call it friendship. And when you start having genuinely high-level conversations, when you stop complaining about things within your control, when you actually want to talk about ideas, strategy, growth, vision, the people who are trauma bonded with you, they genuinely cannot cope and they don't know how to show up for that version of you. They don't know how to celebrate your wins. They don't know what to do when the dynamic shifts from shared struggle to individual rise. And so in that moment, you have a choice. You can either shrink back and keep the peace, or you can keep going and let the space do what it needs to do. And I have always said, I personally want to be the dumbest person in the room, right? So I seek out rooms where excellence is so high, it actually makes me uncomfortable. It actually forces me to grow, where I have to stretch to keep up, where the conversation is operating at a level that pulls me forward rather than keeping me comfortable. And I personally would rather pay to be in the right room than sit for free in one lovingly that I know I've outgrown years and years ago. Just quickly, guys, if you're a woman who's earning well but still feels like your money isn't working for you, I can help. My Build Your Wealth portal is the perfect place to begin, and for less than $100 a month, I'll teach you the exact groundwork that has allowed me to create freedom for my family. Just hit the link in the show notes to connect into my community today. Now back to the episode. Let's talk about the inner work, because this is where it really gets quite real. Right? At the end of the day, when it comes to money, which is one of my favorite topics, money amplifies, right? That's all it does. It takes who you already are and it makes that version of you bigger, louder, more undeniable. And so if you're generous, it amplifies the generosity. If you're disciplined, it gives that discipline more room to build. If you're careless, it creates more consequences for the carelessness. And if you're fearful, that money is even going to make the fear louder. If you're someone who gives from genuine abundance, it gives you more capacity to do that. And this is why the work of becoming is not separate from the work of building wealth. You cannot sustainably hold wealth that you have not grown into. Your nervous system will not recognize it as safe, and what your nervous system doesn't recognize as safe, it will find a way to release through spending, through self-sabotage, through simply never fully allowing that abundance in the first place. And the woman who builds wealth that lasts, it's not just financially educated. She has closed the gap between who she is in public and who she is in private. She's gotten ferociously honest about the standards that she is actually holding behind closed doors. Not the standards that she posts about on Instagram, the ones that exist in the moments nobody sees. And for me, that looked like stopping the drinking, right? Getting disciplined with my body, losing 7 kilos this year already, and not for aesthetics purposes, but because I understood that the quality of my physical state directly determined the quality of my decisions. So getting my language in check, because after 12 years of working with brain biology, I know with absolute certainty that your language is not just expression, it's construction. Your words, the things you repeat consistently, they wire your neural pathways. So the complaints that you voice become the ceiling of your nervous system. The limitations that you speak out loud to your friends become the reality that your brain works hard to confirm, right? So the women I see who are stuck, who have hit their earning thermostat, that invisible ceiling above which they cannot seem to rise past, they're often completely unaware of it. And it's not because they're not intelligent. It's because their language, their environment, the conversations that they're immersed in daily are literally preventing their brain from perceiving the options that exist right in front of them. It's not a mindset problem in the fluffy sense. It's neuroscience, and it can be changed, but only with a level of self-honesty that is genuinely confronting. And then there's what I believe is the most underestimated barrier of all when it comes to building real wealth. And this is the fear of becoming a woman who's responsible for it. I'm going to say that again, right? Because I really need you to hear that. One of the biggest things women fear that they will not actually admit is that in order to build real wealth, you need to become the woman who is going to be responsible for the wealth you're going to hold, right? So it's actually not fear of losing money. It's the fear of fully accepting that you are now someone whose decisions actually matter. Someone who cannot go back to operating carelessly because she knows too much. Someone who has to show up at a level that matches what she is building. And the weight of that responsibility is exactly why so many women delay. Not the trust structure, not the portfolio strategy, not the crypto allocation. They delay the whole thing because somewhere underneath the practical hesitation is this deeper truth. Doing it means that the old version of you is no longer going to have a place to hide. And look, I'll be honest with you. I sat on opening a family trust for way longer than I should have. And when I finally got honest about it, like, why did I wait? The fear of fully accepting that I was that woman now, the one who thinks generationally, the one whose financial decisions are going to ripple beyond my own lifetime, the one who can't pretend that she doesn't know what she knows. And here's what I know to be true from everything I've studied and everything I have lived. The universe, that intelligence, whatever you want to call it, it responds to who you are actually being, not who you plan to be, babe, right? Not who you post about being. The version that shows up behind closed doors when nobody is watching. And that version has to match the vision, or the wealth simply will not stay. So in choosing to break the cycle, it can break you apart. And that is real, my friends. That path of building wealth, it's not a straight line, and it's not all celebration and champagne, right? There is loss in it. There is grief, and there are relationships that I can tell you wholeheartedly will fall away. Rooms that you stop fitting in, and there's almost this specific kind of loneliness that comes with becoming somebody genuinely new. And it's a loneliness that has no clean target in my mind, right? There's no one to blame. It's just this disorientation of outgrowing a skin before the new one has fully formed. And I know there are so many of you right now who are listening to this going, yes, I feel exactly what you're expressing here. So if you're growing and something feels a little bit off, if everything's a bit quiet, a little stranger than you expected it to be, if there's that feeling, it's not a sign that you're doing it wrong. I I want you to understand that. It's actually almost always a sign that you are doing it more right than you ever have. It is evolution to see that truth and move through it. So I want you to keep going. And if you want to be surrounded by women who are in this with you, who get what I've just spoken about, who will actually celebrate you when you rise, come and find us inside of my free Crypto for Women community. We've got 550 women in there building not just portfolios, but the version of themselves that those portfolios require. The link is below. Have a beautiful day. If you've gotten value from today's episode, make sure you subscribe and leave a 5-star review. And if you're ready for more support in building regulated wealth strategies, check out the link in the show notes. Have a beautiful day.